Creativity is a fickle bitch. It's one of those sayings that is so ubiquitous in the music and creative space that I think that nobody ever really questions, because you only need to go so far as your YouTube feed to see dozens of videos on how you can hack your creativity. Or maybe you've even experienced it yourself when you've sat down at your desk with your instrument or your video camera and nothing happens. Creativity is a fickle bitch just, in my opinion, isn't true. Or at least it's not the whole truth. Yes, as a creative, you will experience dry spells. Yes, as a creative, there will be times when you sit down and nothing happens. But as a creative, there are things that you can do with your systems and your routines that can allow creativity a greater chance of occurring. This video is, generally speaking, a review of my Blackmagic camera. However, I also wanted to couch this within an idea that I've had recently as far as being able to maximize my own creativity as a videographer and a musician. So let's first start off by qualifying what sort of work I do with my camera. My time is typically split between solo content creation and work for hire stuff. The work for hire stuff typically is going to be guitar playthroughs for bands, interviews, I've filmed a couple of master classes, and generally some product videography for physical and digital products. The solo content creation is going to be some guitar playthroughs, some talking head pieces like this, and it's usually going to get uploaded to my YouTube channel. So I've been involved with videography for the better part of 8 years, and I started working at a more professional level about 5 years ago. Up until that point, I had been working with a Canon T6i, which only films at 1080p. And when I hit that more professional level, I wanted to update my rig and upgrade the quality of the video that I was shooting. So I started looking around at 4K cameras. At that time, Blackmagic's pocket cinema cameras were wildly popular. I really couldn't go on YouTube without seeing some video extolling the virtues of the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K, which is such a mouthful, by the way. I've always hated even writing that out to say what cameras I hate that name. So I asked the company that I was working with at the time for a recommendation, because I was kind of torn between that and going with another Canon because I had already had some Canon lenses. But I got a massive recommendation from the people I was working with that I should go with Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. It was what they had used in their own studios, and it's really what they wanted me to use, so I bought in and I purchased my Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. And that's really where the trouble started. But before I get to the cons of the purchase, let's start with the pros. As far as image quality is concerned, the Blackmagic RAW codec that these cameras film in is beautiful. The colors are fantastic. The flexibility when you are color correcting, it's super flexible. It's amazing to work with. And I was a little surprised when I started looking into buying this camera. The quality of the image that you get is at a relatively affordable price. I think on B&H it's right now at $12.95, which for a 4K camera is not bad. Around 5 years ago, I think that this was probably one of the most affordable ways that you could get into a 4K camera. However, come to find out, there's a few hidden purchases that make this a little bit more expensive than it says on the packaging, but I'll get into the hidden costs in a few minutes. Another bonus that made me feel like I was getting some extra value out of this camera was that each Blackmagic camera comes with a free copy of Blackmagic Design's DaVinci Resolve Studio Edition. This software is typically $295 when it's not on sale, and it's an incredibly powerful editor, and it has only become more so over the last 5 years of using it. And that's pretty much it for the positives of this camera. I'm literally struggling to think, because that's actually the last of the positives that I have for this camera. I have a list of good things, and I feel like I'm really making this section very, very short. But let's get to the cons. And this list is coming from the perspective of a solo content creator, not from a filmmaker, somebody who's going to be behind the camera, because for those people, this isn't going to be quite as big of a deal. But for a solo content creator, these are going to be the friction points that have actually kept me from being able to go from idea to execution. The main friction point, and I think a feature that this camera is severely lacking, is continual autofocus. Continual autofocus just simply means that the camera is going to be focusing on you continuously no matter what depth you are away from the camera. And that can be frustrating because as a solo content creator, maybe you sit in front of the camera, you dial in your focus, but then your chair shifts or you sit up straight and suddenly you're no longer in focus. I really can't tell you how many videos I've had to go back and reshoot simply because I shifted a little bit to get more comfortable and suddenly I'm out of focus and the entire video is ruined. And that's why it's so important for me to get a camera with a great autofocus, because then I can sit in front of the camera with absolute confidence and know that I will always be in focus. It's also going to allow me to create shots when I'm behind the camera that I wasn't able to because I didn't have autofocus on this camera. But Steven, you might say, why not try getting one of these LiDAR autofocusing systems for your camera? Well, they are expensive, and there is your first hidden fee, because if you want to have some sort of autofocusing system on a Blackmagic camera, you gotta shell out the money for it. Recently, I was on set filming a masterclass with Ryan Bruce, aka Fluff, and he was looking at the image of this camera and he loved it. He was like, dude, this looks amazing. Like, tell me about your experience with this camera. And the second that I told him that it didn't have continual autofocus, he was like, no, it's not for me, bro. Point number 2, the LCD screen. Now there is a big LCD screen on the back of the Blackmagic cameras and they are really, really nice. They're really, really bright. They have a lot of detail so you really know what is in front of the camera. However, unlike my Canon T6i that's $600, the LCD screen doesn't pop out, doesn't rotate, it is fixed. So you end up having to actually invest in some sort of external monitoring system, whether it's a Shinobi Atmos or a computer screen or a TV set or a laptop. You have to find some way to externally monitor yourself because you cannot do it from the camera. And there's another one of your hidden costs. My third and final gripe about the Blackmagic cameras is math. Specifically referring to the sensor size. Different cameras have different sensor sizes. There's the full frame sensor size, there's the APS-C sensor size, and there's the micro four thirds sensor size. The micro four thirds is about half the size of a full frame sensor. So what does this mean for the person who's actually trying to operate the Blackmagic cameras? It means math. That's really what it means. Because if you have a sensor that is half the size of full frame, and most lenses refer to their focal length in reference to using a full frame sensor, then you have to double the focal length on a Blackmagic camera. Hopefully you follow that, because your 50mm lens now becomes a 100mm lens. Your 18mm lens becomes a 36mm lens. If you are on set trying to figure out what sort of framing you want and you're having to do math in your head, I don't find that to be very creatively inspiring. And yes, there is another peripheral that you can purchase to get rid of that crop factor. It's called a speed booster. However, it is very, very expensive. So yet again, there's another hidden cost to this camera. To kind of start wrapping this all up, I would say that definitely this is my fault for not having done my due diligence, because I trusted the opinion of somebody who had never done solo content creation themselves. This camera definitely fits into the rig of somebody who is filming projects of other people. Like if you're making a music video, if you are filming a guitar playthrough of somebody else's, if you are the person behind the camera, this is an amazing camera to use. But as a solo content creator, it is significantly lacking. All right, I promise I am done complaining now, because now I'm actually going to be moving on to a camera that is going to allow me the confidence to create these solo content pieces without running into the same snags that I have been experiencing with the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. Because today I am purchasing for myself this Sony FX30 with the XLR handle and the Sigma 18 to 55mm lens. And I really want this to be an investment in my creative process. It's not just about the new Gear Day post on Instagram that I'll make, but this is really just about shortening that span of time between ideation and creation, because ultimately what I really want to do is create a lot more solo content. This year I have a lot of stuff planned, and I hope that this investment is going to actually get me into being able to execute on it and to be able to deliver the content to you guys that I really want to, because I love content creation and I love helping people and educating people. An investment in the Sony FX30, I see it as an investment in my creative process. So now I get to ask you, the audience, is there something in your creative process that actually creates friction points between your idea and your creation? And maybe it's time to think about systems or tools that can alleviate that friction. So what are the things that are keeping you from actually executing on those ideas? And that's where I'm going to end the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to support this video, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below with your experiences as a solo content creator, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And with that, I'll catch y'all in the next video. And while the new Gear Day posts are going to be fun, and I'll be able to post on Instagram and stuff like that for all the likes and the engagements. Oh, I gotta have my engagement. I believe in me. Okay.